may want to agree or disagree with me that one of the factors responsible for collapse of structure is the use of substandard building material. Now we are at the Lagos State Material Testing Laboratory at Ojudu, Baja, Ikeja, where we'll be discussing or meeting with the General Manager, Lagos State Material Testing Laboratory, Engineer Olufunsho and Elulade. Please call with him.
Now, you would agree with me that substandard materials are definitely one of the factors that contribute to building collapse. It is a menace in Lagos State. So, how is a developer expected to identify substandard materials? That's a developer with good intentions. How are they supposed to identify such materials from the point of purchase?
Yeah, well, that's a good question and a simple answer. And that's why this agency exists. There's no way you can confirm the quality of any construction material without carrying out a test. You must carry out the test. You can't see a construction material and believe it's of quality.
Even with the SON confirmation tag?
Absolutely. SON, they put a confirmation tag. But the Lagos State government is saying, okay, we need to confirm that. So doing a double check is to say, like, well, what it is that we must confirm. We believe it has SOS star, but let's check. But I don't want to castigate any agency or any entity. But some materials fail. It all fails.
Okay, I don't want to dig too into that. So let's move on to the next question then. So since the establishment of this agency, from your explanation earlier, you said it was established in 2006, but was managed by an external company before it was handed over to the government. So let's say from the point that the government started managing the agency, if you were to put a number to it, like how many production or manufacturing companies has your agency found corporate, of the laws of producing substandard materials, and what has been done to these companies? You don't have to mention their names though.
No, I understand that. To be candid, we haven't.
Really?
Yeah, we haven't.
Even Nigerian-owned companies?
That's the truth. We haven't. You can ask me why.
Exactly, yeah, why?
Okay. If a client brings any material for test, if it fails, we write to that client where the materials were purchased from. However, you will find out that when you now want to probe further, you will be frustrated because they won't let you know that material was manufactured. So when you hit the wall about 2, 3, 4, 5 times, what would you do? It's a cartel. It's a cartel, but we managed to seal some manufacturing.
Okay, then that means you have.
I don't want to, there's no point talking about people's business. With marriage.
How about carrying out subtle investigation, especially for companies like that or clients like that, such as because we're talking about human lives here, right? If these materials are eventually used in construction of a building and then the building collapses, we're talking of destruction of property and all that. So do you perhaps carry out certain investigations to just know exactly where it all started from?
Oh, yes. And, you would agree with me that in the case of construction materials that were done in Nigeria, that was easy. Now, it was easy for us to do that. Okay. But in case of construction materials that were imported, I asked SON logo. So, one level of investigation we want to do. Do we have the resources to go over to that country, India, London? Do we have that approval to even investigate that manufacturing company sending materials to Nigeria, even though our own SON has approved them. Some will bring materials without custom being checked, through illegal means or routes. So it's a lot of combination of things out there. But what is important for government is to use its enforcement, power to stop construction until the right thing is done. I think that's what is important. And for me, I think I'm on all the block manufacturing or producers in names. That is one of my, how would I say, one of my parameters of measurements of stemming collapse in Lagos. This year they start registering, go out to every block making industry. There's still going to be a communique coming out and, press release. In Lagos, nobody will be making blocks manually again. It has to be, the normal automatic or motorized machine that does block making. And of course, we'll be going impromptu to all the block making industries. Once we test them and it doesn't meet the standard, they will crush everything and will seal that block making industry.
I'll consider that one of your efforts to stemming the infiltration of substandard materials into the system. So, are there other efforts you're carrying out that you think the public is likely to be aware of?
Oh, yes, other efforts. Sometimes we storm into all these private laboratories because it's important that they calibrate their equipment. Some laboratories have very, very neolithic, obsolete equipment. And if you not calibrate equipment, it will not give you a precise answer. So that means you have misled that prospective client. And you will take that report as the right report, and you'll start building. Before you know it, the building come. Sometimes we interrogate buildings. Sometimes, because every private laboratory that I register with the government, whatever test they have done, the report must pass through these agencies. We must check it and make sure it's the right thing before we issue it back to you and you give it to your client. Right? So, when we normally appraise reports, we always detect a lot of stuff. So, we will now do a confirmatory test to show that, okay, this recommendation you have made was the right recommendation to be made. Otherwise, how do we know? And for me, part of the synergy is some tests that we carry out. If that building fails, the next thing that I do is, or this agency does, is to write NAPCA. So what I normally do when I carry out a test, I'll write all the sites not fit for habitation to be demolished, not fit for habitation to be demolished. With a cover letter, send it to NAPCA, and they swing into action. That is how you see NAPCA demolishing buildings. That is part of the synergy. Oh, very yes.
That's great. So I see you have lots of working relationship with sustainable things like
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You mentioned earlier something about non-destructive integrity tests. How long does it, or in details, okay, what exactly is this test about, and then how long does it take to carry it out? Can you give an average cost for such tests?
Well, it depends. We categorize them into, whether it is commercial purpose or just residential purpose. So they all have different fees. And the whole idea is that because the client failed to get the materials he used to be tested, then that is the cause or the reason for non-destructive test. So we're going to take it. Or if a particular building is distressed, that is why they need to carry out. And even if the building doesn't show any sign of distress, but you just want to sleep is dead, we can tell us to do a non-destructive test. For example, we've just tested over 500 schools in Lagos.
Wow.
Oh yes, 2 stories and above. The report will soon be out. We've done a pilot test 2021. And now we did 221 schools. And now we are doing all schools according to the government directive. And in Lagos, as a private school, you cannot operate without the report of these agents. They will give record. So all the private schools as well, they send request for their schools to be tested. I mean, a story and above. In civil engineering or in engineering or building, we still don't feel the bungalow should have, risk compared to, because you don't have slab. The only weight on the bungalow is just off. So that's why we don't carry out NDT on bungalows. But if at the client's request, of course, we'll do it. So that's why non-destructive test is important. And what do we test? We test the structural component that holds the stability of that bed. 1, the corners that carries the weight into the foundation. 2, the base that distributes the weight from the slab into the corner. Once these are okay, then you're fine. And that is why it is called non-destructive structural integrity test. However, we always recommend, depending on the visual test carried out, because when we go to site, we carry out visual test. Visual test meaning, what can I see? What are the defects on that building that I can see without any kind of test? What are the signs? For example, if you see dampness, whereby there's decoloration of either the paint or the wall, then know something is happening under this. It's either the building doesn't have a downproof membrane to stop that water coming from the underground, because I should know that exists a lot on the island, because the water table on the island is so high compared to the mainland. So what we normally recommend is for that client to carry out foundation probing, because the NDT does not really guarantee, especially if you have those signs. You need to know what is happening in the ground, so that if there's a problem, right, we'll tell you what you need to do, to clear or clean the problem or resolve the problem. So it's a mixture of everything. And it doesn't take more than a day per build
to carry out the test and get the result.
Oh yes, because I will tell you, as far as Lagos State is concerned, this agency has the most sophisticated, latest equipment. The government invested hundreds of millions since 2021 Oh, yes. So some of the equipment used to carry out non-destructive tests is called pundit. Pundit is called pulse ultrasonic non-destructive,
Benefitor.
yeah. And there's another machine that is called profoscope. It is the pundit that is attached with transducers that plugs to those elements and use ultrasound and record the data. So we will now bring all the data to the office. And the profoscope, once you place it on it, where you identify a colonist, it tells you the space of the bars. It tells you the diameter of that bar. So we'll now request for your structural drawings, or which has a bar bending schedule, and check if it is the right proposition on that structural diagram that we have on site. Because the calculation can say use diameter 12. But some contractors, based on experience, they said, maybe we used it at Baba Kudi's, let's use it. So when we identify that, we include it into the report. So, but the analysis takes some time. So by the time you analyze, by the time you write your report, and what often delays the report, most of these people don't want to submit their drawings. Because for us to do the report, we need the architectural drawing, which is the black. We need the structural drawing. But a lot of...
Well, could that be because they probably have not followed through and through the drawings?
Some has lost the drawings. Some are even building without drawings.
So you mentioned something quite interesting, foundation probe. And then in case where you carry out these tests, especially the foundation probe, and you can tell something is wrong, the data shows you something, do you go ahead to demolish?
No, they can't.
Okay.
It can only demolish if the building fails, especially those structural areas. It's unfortunate I don't have a copy of the reports. I'll just show you what I mean by structural failure. What we do is, once we carry out the foundation probe, it's easy for us to provide a solution to correcting all the anomalies in the ground. It might be expensive, but of course, our clients, they seek for advice, and it depends on how many of those structural components passed. For example, the ground floor, let's say 3 levels, 1, 2, 3, the ground floor carries the highest load. So if on the ground floor I have 20 columns carrying out the load, 20, and out of that 20, 15 of them fail. So what would be your recommendation? And that's where the expertise comes. Because we always train our staffs and train our staffs. And that's where our engineering comes in. Would you suggest a Stephen solution? Or would you advise the client to demolish? That's the conundrum. But in order for you not to bear responsibilities, it's important to highlight that and let them understand this is what it leads to in the future. And advise them to bring the building down. First, then advice. But you have told them the consequence if they do not bring the building down.
can the government not, can government through your agency now not bring its statutory power to be at that point and say, okay, like the LASCA, for example, if your building is distressed or has failed, they go ahead to demolish. So in a case like that, where the Lagos State Material Testing Laboratory tests a building and you can tell that, oh, this building is going to lead to bringing some apps, exactly. Can you stand your ground and use the statutory power of the government and say we have to demolish this and that?
Oh, yes, very yes. Oh, very yes. Very, very yes. Even the Gerard shouldn't have collapsed. It's unfortunate. And the incident was very appointed and even unwarranted. If they have allowed these areas to monitor that construction, because would have detected, they would have detected that this building will not start, even from the 6th or 7th floor, and will have stopped the construction. I always tell my staffs, don't pity people. You are dealing with lives. If what you have done show that this is what it is, and the builder has to recommend it has to go. Because if you don't recommend, if eventually there's catastrophe, you are going down with it. I'll see an example. The house that connects to the other, we carried out the test, we told them, but the guy went to go and get indemnity of an engineer. And the building came down, and 2 people were killed. The guy is locked up now behind bars. Accra is going to withdraw their certificate of practice. So you can understand.
Let's go on a quick break and we'll be right back in the video.
Cable Plus Property, the hub of professionals in the built environment and the #1 online educative platform on all issues related to land and landed property. At Cable Plus Property, our aim is to ensure that all Nigerians and non-Nigerians have at the tip of your fingers, free of charge, all information on landed matters. We provide you with all information you need to know about land procurement, land documentation and development, planning permit procurement, building construction, and so on. Join us today for free by subscribing to our YouTube channel, like and follow us on our social media platforms, and check us on our website www.cableplusproperty.com. Together, we shall make our environment better. Spend and build right.
Hi, welcome back. I still have engineer Olufunsho Elulade with me, and we're still talking about building collapse, the menace of building collapse in Lagos State, and how the Lagos State Material Testing Laboratory has been contributing to efforts to ensure that we stem the tide. Can these tests be carried out by an agency outside or perhaps a private laboratory?
Oh, yes. I mean, because we don't have the capacity. Lagos State is one construction site. There's construction springing up every Lagos. And most importantly, those developers are very smart. They make sure they work out of office hours, which is 4 through the midnight, Saturday and Sunday, where nobody will change it. So before you know it, where you've been 2 weeks ago, it's gone to 2nd floor.
How then do you ensure the reliability of whatever results that these other laboratories produce, especially for such results that will be taken later to perhaps LASPA or LASPA 4?
Oh, yes, that's why that every private laboratory's report that are registered with government. Any laboratory that's not registered with government, we don't take their report.
Okay, if I get you correctly, so after a developer takes their carries out their test, they bring the results to your agency?
Yeah, the laboratories submit.
Okay.
No, they must.
Okay.
If they are on the government's list. But there are some quack laboratories. And of course, during our monitoring, where we come across such a building and we seal the building, they will bring that, they say, oh, we've done the edit. Oh, bring the report. We don't have vision. We just want to be showing you've done it. Once they bring the report, we'll go throughout this. Is it a registered laboratory with the government? If it is no, we don't take that report. That person will create a confirmatory non-destructive test. Oh, yes.
So what are some of the challenges you have witnessed in ensuring compliance? Because from our conversation so far, I can see there are so many challenges already, even without you telling me.
In fact, public resistance. Nobody wants to pay.
Yeah, so I asked about the average cost earlier.
Yeah, I told you from 4,000 to 200. So depending on the test. Okay. For example, if I'm doing a PIT, pilot integrity test, per pi, I charge 5,000, which is even the cheapest. Some companies charge 10. Well, because it's government and the ease of doing business, I would want people to use or do business with government. That is why our prices are so low. Because for me, this is not for revenue generation per se. It's to protect people's lives. And that's what the public don't understand. So you can understand me doing a pilot test for 5,000, you may have 200. It doesn't matter. Because for you to do piling, that means the ground is bad, but you are building maybe like 6, 5, 10-story building. By the time you finish, if that is when I catch you or you got caught, you will pay like times 10 of what you should have paid.
Okay, so back to a final question about challenges that your agency.
Oh, yeah, of course, resistance, which is everywhere in the world, nobody wants to pay. Then secondly, molestation of our staffs.
Oh, really?
Or doing their business. So anytime with one enforcement, we always have, police fronting them so that they don't get battered on sound. Then secondly, we can reach everywhere. And the government approved that we should use agents. We coin them non-technical consultants. What they do is they play everywhere to serve test notices for previous testing carried out on that construction, that ongoing construction. So the government had to pay them for the job to do. Oh, you understand? The money the government pays should have been into government's coffers. It's part of those challenges as well. Then we have internal challenges, if you don't have operational vehicle, you can go out. For example, weekly, I spend $500,000 on fuel. So you can understand. Fueling almost about 14 trucks to go out on a daily basis. So you can understand. But of course, the good thing is because the good thing is that the government is establishing another laboratory in our Badagry division in Olufunsho.
Okay.
Which will solely be operational even for the election period. So it's going to be operational hopefully by next month. Touch wood. So I'm sure we'll face a lot of stiff opposition there as well. Because that side of state has enjoyed it like freely. Including logistics. And of course, you have to accept that. How would you expect somebody to take samples from Badagry, from Nasu or Olufunsho to Ojodu or Kona? You'll be frustrated. So the government decided, okay, we'll give you an average. So you can understand. And we have another lot in next. So the whole idea is all the 5 divisions that this agency operates, this is the head office. We want to make sure we have laboratories in all the 5 divisions so that it's easily accessible to people. You don't have to come in. And this in their catchment area, they will have one laboratory that serves that area. So this is the lot after of the government through this agency.
Okay, so is there any rule or regulation in your agency that requires that buildings are checked intermittently? You know, as humans, you know, we're advised that we go for checkups maybe every 3 months or every 1 year. So is there any such timeline for buildings?
Well, I will say yes and I will say no. But the most important thing is when buildings are constructed to the right design, there's something called serviceability in any state of design. Any building can hold for as long as you want it to hold. For example, look at all the buildings in England. Some of them were constructed 17 something, pre-First World War, post-Second World War, and they are still standing. But presently, the law that established the agency doesn't allow this agency to test any building. And I identified that when I got there in 2021. So the new law that will soon be passed stipulates that every 5 years, this agency has the right to go into any building to test. I'm sure with this, we will stem that collapse. So that's the only thing. Because if you go into people's building and you said you want to carry out a test, on what basis?
So is this dependent on how long the building has been standing?
See, for me, for example, there's an agency called Masura, and it's under physical planning as well. I tested last year, and actually last year, I tested about 35 buildings on the island, inside that Lagos Island. So for me, it still doesn't give me that total power. The total power will come when the law is passed, the new law is passed. I can just walk up to any building and just say, I want to test this, whatever is known to the government. You know, so I'm sure we'll get there. It's just a matter of time.
Thank you very much, Ras. So we'll round off. This is the Cable Plus Property Endeavor, and what we do is enlighten the public, you know, provide them with information about built environments, which we have just done. So we'd like you to share with us any pieces of advice that you have for us.
No, I mean, I have to commend your organization. I think this kind of organization is not overdue. Because even if you do a lot of advocacy, a lot of people will not listen to because they are on about their daily activities. I keep saying to people, they come to me, oh, and you don't do public enlightenment, you don't do. I said, how many people has DSTV? A little. How many people listen to radio? So for me, my advice is people should be involved in government activities by contributing their own quota, either looking for information from government, like your organization. If you put this online, how many people are learning should read or watch all these games? So for me, you are doing your bits, and I like that. And I will say this, people must carry out test of construction materials, because that is the only way you can sleep is, in fact, part of what we are going to do as government, which were approved. Now it will be difficult for developers to sell their properties to prospective buyer without evidence of non-destructive testing. That the buyer must request that he wants to see. Because it's high time we take the bull by the horn. We can't allow things to be going and collapsing day to day tomorrow. Lagos State has the highest collapse rates in Nigeria. Yes. Plus 60% compared to other states. Mainly because other states are not being recorded. It may be due to that. But from statistics and research, Lagos State has the highest. So if the government is not filed, we will not be able to stem collapse. So that's all I can say. And thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, sir. It's an honor speaking with you.
Thank you for having me to the program.
And that was the interview with Engineer Olufunsho Elulade, the General Manager of the Lagos State Material Testing Laboratory. And like you've rightly heard from the horse's mouth, if you are a developer or an intending or prospective developer, well, before you even think about starting your construction, I think you know what you should do already. And if you know anyone who is developing or intending to, you definitely want to share this video with them. Don't forget to drop a comment in the comment section down below, like this video, and also subscribe. My name is Eliza, and this is a Cable Plus Property.